For this thing not to do, for a Star Wars movie on Memorial Day weekend, not to cleanly, in its sleep, breeze to 100 million domestic within the 3-day frame is sad. It's just sad. Online. Got a cracking update. We got to talk about Mando and Grogu. Now, you look right here. We now have extended forecast bringing in Scary Movie 6 and Masters of the Universe. Scary Movie 6 might beat Masters of the Universe opening.
I think it's going to, and you want to know why?
Yeah.
Because when I saw, because I did the double feature this week when I saw Michael and I saw Mortal Kombat 2, and I saw a smattering of trailers and how the audience reacted to both.
Yeah.
Because I saw both of the Nolan trailers, which was boring as piss and no real reaction from anybody in the audience.
No.
Both audiences, both times, really reacted to the Scary Movie 6 trailer.
Yep. And I saw that a few months ago when the first time I saw it in front of, it was in front of Scream 7.
Yep.
And people
in
the theater like laughing their ass off when that trailer dropped. I mean, the theater was just rolling on the floor. Now, granted, you had the perfect audience for it because it was the audience there to see Scream 7.
Exactly, yes.
But that is the key audience because Scary Movie 6 should perform in a similar fashion to the horror films because it's a horror parody. So I get it, but not that I want to get bogged down in that discussion because we're still a little bit out from that. But Masters of the Universe is not looking great right now. Obviously, they've not really ramped up the marketing machine yet. However, here's the kicker. Okay, this is from May 8th. This is the new updates. Mandalorian Grogu, let's read here, and then I'm going to pull up the big chart. Star Wars Mando and Grogu, pre-release tracking continues to march along generally expected pathing, a slight uptick in pre-sale momentum during the past week. Now, remember, the first couple of days of pre-sales for this movie were shockingly bad. I mean, everybody was noticing, and even making comments about how, unless Star Wars has suddenly being not a fanboy type box office track, we got an issue because there was not like a ramp up in pre-sales of the excitement of, oh my God, based on ticket pre-sales, this is great. I mean, they're seeing are we going to have a lot of walk-up traffic for this? Because that would be very unusual for Star Wars. And if there's no walk-up traffic, then, we got a problem. Well, I'm telling y'all right now, for when I saw, I don't know if there's a lot of enthusiasm here. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And this is from Disney's own marketing side of things. But you look at this, we're still advising caution with front-loaded fan interest, natural to the franchise. But as the lone major Memorial Day opener 2 weekends from now, walk-up family business could push the film past Solo's 84 million 3-day bow back in 2019. So basically what Sean is saying here is we're not seeing any evidence that this movie right now is going to beat Solo, which would be terrifying because we're talking about 8 years later and a ton of movie ticket inflation since Solo. We're also talking about a movie that was absolutely punished by Star Wars fans for the temerity of what Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy did to us in The Last Jedi just a few months prior. This movie could solidly underperform Solo's opening weekend without even an inflation adjustment. Raw dollars. That would be a show. And I don't know how else to describe it. What Sean is also saying here, just for clarification, is that, hey, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's the only major movie coming out that weekend. It's going to have PLFs, obviously. It's going to have IMAX. Walk-up traffic, as of right now, based on the trending for pre-sale tracking. And remember, we're less than 2 weeks away from now. But the trending for pre-sale tracking, basically, we're going to have to depend on walk-up traffic for this film. And it might not even get 100 million.
How much of this uptick in the last week do you think might be just because of the rumor that Gina might be coming back?
There's that. And I mean,
Gina's not coming back.
No, I don't think he's coming back either.
All of us are speculating on it, but I'm not. That doesn't mean that it didn't push the sales all of a sudden.
Part of this is the marketing machine. The marketing machine really got into big phase 1 last week. They had the red carpet events. They're putting out a lot more social media right now. Expect to see that become bigger in the next few weeks. My problem is we shouldn't have to get to 2 weeks or a week before a freaking Star Wars movie comes out for people to be aware of it. There hasn't been one released in 7 years. This should be a lot of fan excitement, but we all know why there isn't, because there's no fans anymore. It's been blown to smithereens. Not to mention the fact that, again, after Mando Season 3, after Book of Boba Fett, they could not have picked a worse time to choose this topic, the Mandoverse, to lead fans back into the theaters, because even that fandom has largely gone poop, okay?
Well, look at how bad this is. It's going up against Solo, and we're not even going to take inflation into account, and it probably loses debt. But also, it seems to me now, I may be wrong, but it looks to me like we're comparing a 3-day to a 4-day. So we got a 4-day weekend versus...
No, that's a 3-day. We're talking straight 3-day here. Let me show you.
They're saying it's going to make... Okay, they're saying it's going to make 81 on a 3-day?
This is Sean's chart. So this is what we're looking at here, okay? So you can see here, we got the weekend that we just came into, 39 to 48 million for Mortal Kombat. Looks like Mortal Kombat's going to come in on the lower edge of that, okay? We got Sheep Detectives came in on the lower edge of that. And then we got other stuff, Into the Gray, Obsession. Let's go down to Star Wars, Mando, and Grogu. Look at Sean's range. Sean's range has it at 74 to 90 with a midpoint of about 86. If this also winds up performing on the lower edge of the range, as we just saw this weekend with his Mortal Kombat and all this kind of stuff, then that means that Mando is going to start with about 75 to 76 million on the 3-day. Remember, this is 3-day FSS. This is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Once we chew over to the yellow column, so you go down distributor, 3-day high end, 3-day low end, 3-day midpoint, pinpoint forecast, yellow column. One more over there. We got target change from last update. The target change is up, green 8%, right there where my cursor is swirling, right? Yeah, 8%. Right next to that, you see Sean's 4-day, including Memorial Day, Monday holiday at 105. So over the 4-day, we could see a $100 million opening, which of course, if that happens, that's what Disney is going to and talk about. But for this thing not to do, for a Star Wars movie on Memorial Day weekend, not to cleanly in its sleep breeze to 100 million domestic within the 3-day frame is sad. It's just sad. That's what it is. Now, hang on. Let me finish up.
Yeah.
To domestic low end, domestic high end over here. Okay. 152 to 228 with a midpoint of 215 domestic. Basically, we're going about 2.2x is what he's got, like this thing not having many legs at all. 2.2x from opening 4-day, on the 4-day, mind you, a little bit higher if you just count the 3-day, so maybe closer to a 3x if you count 3-day, but it is a 4-day Memorial Holiday. Come on, you got to, so 2x opening weekend. And that's up about 10% from the last projection. So, the suggestion is some of the marketing is trying to help it. But we're already starting from such a low floor. We're talking about a Star Wars movie that is going to struggle to make it to $500 million in 2026. Not 2015, not 2017, not 2018, not 2019, 2026. This is why at the start of the show, when we were covering the box office, based on this information here, and with very rare exception, Sean has been pretty good with this over the years. Okay, that's not to say that a movie doesn't come out, surprises people pleasantly, and then grossly overperforms initial projections because of very positive word of mouth. Great example, Project Hail Mary. Raise your hand, kids out there in the audience, if anybody is expecting a PHM surprise from Mando and Grogu. Ain't nobody raising their hand. So you would need that to happen for this. I'm not saying it can't happen, but the chances at this point seem thin. Because I think we would have seen some signs of life from Disney up to this point when it came to Star Wars. We haven't. I don't expect this movie to change that at all, honestly.
So here's what I'm going to point out on this. We've got an increase on...
Devil Wears Prada 2 wins. It's going to make more money than Mando.
Yeah. Well, this is horrible in ways that are not immediately obvious. Let's just look at this in a little detail. So the numbers appear to have gone up. But if you go to the domestic low and the domestic high ends, this is where we get into scary territory for Star Wars. The domestic total low end, which is to say this is the ceiling, this is where they don't think they can go lower, is 152. The domestic high end is only 228. The projection, the pinpoint that he's going for is so close to the high end that it means that all the wiggle is below that. And so we might actually see, in fact, there's a pretty solid chance that what we'll see is this end up with a domestic total pinpoint that really is below 200,000. Now, here's the problem. Even if the Mandalorian Grogu, with the increased projections now, even if it hits the max he sees possible, which is 215. If you say it's a 1-to-1 internationally, which is typically what we see with Star Wars movies, then we are looking at a $430,000 Star Wars movie, or $430 million Star Wars movie, and that is abysmal and a terrible flop. And it should be the sign to everybody at Disney, we can't do this again. We literally can't make $430 million on Star Wars movies. We can't do that.
$400 million in 2026 with $18 average PLF prices. $18 per ticket national average PLF screen ticket prices for a film of this type. We're not talking about a kiddie movie where mom takes all the young kids to 10 a.m. But we're talking about $400 million is what a Star Wars movie in 2026, the first one in 7 years, should do on its opening frickin' weekend.
Well,
globally. You
brought up the ticket average. Did you know, or did anybody else notice that in the last couple of weeks, IMAX raised their price like $2?
Mm-hmm. They've been boosting them. They talked about this at the last earnings call.
So I just looked, adjusted for inflation, we're now looking at the top end of the domestic. If it's a 1-to-1 international, the top end, Solo is $393. That's the worldwide box office. Adjusted for inflation, this is worse than Solo in the best case scenario that Sean Robbins sees. I mean, this is, we've hit crazy territory for Star Wars. The best case scenario is worse adjusted for inflation. It will sell less tickets in the best case scenario than Solo.
Well, the problem you have is you have a TV show that fell off a cliff when you go and look at the ratings, because they actually had really, really good ratings for the first 2 seasons. But then when everything went to hell, I think this last season they were mustering, 4 or 5 million viewers per episode, roughly. You guys probably know the math better than me. For Mando.
For Mando season 2 or 3?
3.
3 was sharply down.
That's what I was saying. That's my point. Yeah, you'd have to, I was asking if anybody knows the exact numbers offhand, but again, you have that problem. Plus it's a TV show being made into a movie, and regardless if Favreau made it accessible to a general audience or not, you have a lot of the audience that I'm sure are looking at this going, that we've all brought this up before, that the big problem you have here is that it's a TV show that probably requires some sort of homework, or at least people would consider it to require homework, when there's 5 seasons of shows that we haven't seen, most people haven't watched. And I'm not including just Mando, right? Because there's also Ahsoka, there's also Boba Fett. So it all depends. How much is this stuff all going to tie together? And how much of this is going to be setting anything up for the future? I mean, there is a glimmer of hope right now with Favreau kind of being a part of these things going forward, it looks like, as of right now. So that gives some fans some hope. But
yeah,
I mean, really, this is the loss leader, I think. And I think Script Doctor made a good point about that. This movie has to be good, though.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be good. It has to get good word of mouth. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it makes money as long as it gets people back for Star Wars. Solo was always going to be a bigger film than a lot of these spin-off movies, just because it's Han Solo. Like, Han Solo is a very well-known character. You don't even have to have seen any of the prequels really to know who Han Solo is or anything like that. So that's the least amount of homework. It'd been just the same thing if they did a movie called Darth Vader right now.
Yeah.
Right. Mando, on the other hand, Baby Grogu has kind of wore off.
It has.
I don't see the passion or the excitement that it used to evoke. And that's kind of where James Gunn was smart with, Baby Groot. He knew that he could only play that for so long, right, before it became old hat. And he did it perfectly. One movie, in and out. Little TV series, done. And then from there on out, he was an adult again. You did the teenage bit, and then you did him adult. So, like, to me, this gimmick with the baby is you got to advance this character at some point too. That's the other problem.
It's literally a prop. It's a Muppet. It's not a character. It never speaks. There's no character arc. It just coos and summons donuts or
well, no,
cupcakes
that's not true. You were going to have a character arc, and then they screwed it to hell.
Right.
We got to the end of Mando season 2. The story completed. Luke Skywalker showed up, and they gave him Grogu. Done. He's going to turn him into a Jedi. No. The very next thing we saw, not even a few months later, whatever it was, Book of Boba Fett. It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, never mind.
Yeah.
Just
that was a filler.
All that stuff, all that great emotional high you got, Christmas of 2020. Piss all that.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.